Welcome to Mr. Hutchings History, where the past comes alive. Let's dive into today's story.
All right, let's dive into a moment in American history that really puts everything to the test.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talking about the Little Rock Crisis, 1957, school desegregation, but bigger than that, like state versus federal power. The whole idea of equality, right on the line.
And right in the middle of it all, 9 teenagers.
The Little Rock Nine. We're going to be using some incredible sources here. We've got clips from the Mr. Hutchings History podcast, and then wow, Melba Patillo Beals, one of the 9, wrote a memoir, Warriors Don't Cry. We've got excerpts from that, too. It gets pretty intense.
Definitely. We're talking like real lived experience, not just textbook stuff.
Exactly. So listeners, get ready. This one's powerful.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off, like set the stage historically?
Sure. So rewind a bit. 1952, Brown v. Board of Education ruling. Supreme Court says separate but equal. Nah, that's inherently unequal. Huge moment, right?
A landmark. But
Then there's this phrase, all deliberate speed. Basically, the court says desegregate, but doesn't give a hard deadline.
Gave southern states a loophole, huh?
Oh, they used it. Drag their feet big time. So Little Rock, Arkansas, they come up with this gradual plan for Central High School. 1957, they're going to start with 9 black students.
9 kids changing the course of history. And not just names on a list either, right?
Nope. Each one a person. Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford, Jefferson Thomas, Terrence Roberts, Carlotta Walls, Minnie Jean Brown, Gloria Ray, Thelma Mothershed, and of course, Melba Patillo. She describes in her book feeling like a guinea pig, like they were experimenting on her with all this.
Hate. It's just awful what they went through. In Mr. Hutchings' history, he plays like actual recordings from back then, crowds yelling, 2, 4, 6, 8, we ain't gonna integrate.
Awful. And go back to the jungle.
Yeah, that one too.
And you can't talk about this without talking about Governor Orval Faubus, up for re-election that year. Some historians argue he saw this whole thing as an opportunity.
To exploit it.
Exactly. He calls in the National Guard, says he's got to stop this disorder. But really,
appealing to those segregationist voters.
yeah, playing to the crowd that wanted things to stay the same. And this is where Eisenhower gets pulled in.
Which is interesting because initially Eisenhower was like, states' rights, let them handle it. Even said he couldn't imagine sending federal troops to enforce a court order.
Really stuck to that hands-off approach at first.
Yeah.
But Little Rock blew up. Violence escalating, the mayors begging for help, and then the international angle.
Oh, yeah, the world was watching. The Soviets, they used this for propaganda. Like, America, huh? Land of the free, equal rights. Look what's happening in your own backyard.
Exactly. Total embarrassment on the world stage. So Eisenhower's got this dilemma. What does he do?
Takes a step that honestly changes everything.
September 24th, 1957, Executive Order 10730. He federalizes the Arkansas National Guard, takes it away from Faubus, and then he sends in the 101st Airborne.
Whoa, the 101st. Not just any soldiers, we're talking paratroopers. Battle-hardened guys, World War II vets, what a statement.
Huge statement. And Eisenhower gives this address to the nation. Inescapable duty, he says, to uphold the law. And he even uses these words, right, about, what was it? Disorderly mobs?
And demagogic extremists.
Yeah, those. Still relevant today, huh?
It's almost eerie how much they resonate. And then that image, you've all seen it, those 9 black kids walking into Central High, soldiers all around them.
Powerful. The fight, the government stepping in.
Yeah.
But also how divided America was. But even with the 101st there, the Little Rock Nine, their story's just getting started.
Yeah, for them, it was just the beginning. Inside those school walls, that's a whole other layer. We see that picture, right? The Little Rock Nine walking into Central High, soldiers everywhere. You kind of think, okay, good, they're in, it's over. But reading Patillo's memoir, man, it was just the start of a whole other battle.
Inside those walls, yeah. Can you imagine the pressure? Every day. Just hate, isolation, threats. The whole country watching their every move.
It's mind-blowing. How do you even deal with that? How did they keep going?
Well, Patillo talks about her faith being a big part of it. Family, too, and the whole black community really rallied around them. And she mentions Thurgood Marshall, the NAACP lawyer who argued Brown v. Board.
Right.
She corresponded with him. That connection, like she was part of something bigger, must have been powerful.
It's that feeling of, like, I'm not alone in this, but still, to just walk through those doors every day knowing what awaited them.
Incredible courage.
And it really shows you, doesn't it, that just because a law changes doesn't mean people's hearts do.
Oh, absolutely. Brown v. Board was huge symbolically. But Little Rock proved it. The resistance to integration was fierce. It became this, like, battleground of ideas, different ways of seeing history, the role of government, everything.
Okay, so let's get into that. I'm always fascinated by how historians, they look at the same event but come away with different interpretations.
Yeah, it's key to understanding the whole picture. So you've got your traditionalists. For them, Little Rock, it's all about federal power winning out.
States' rights versus the feds.
Exactly. Eisenhower steps in, forces the issue, upholds the Constitution, the Supreme Court. Big win for them.
But then there's others, like the continuity school folks, they'd say.
They'd say, hold on, this isn't some sudden victory, it's all connected. They point to the NAACP, all the work they'd been doing for decades before Little Rock.
Building towards this moment.
Right. Little Rock's part of a longer story for them, not just this one-off event.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the legalist perspective? They tend to be a bit more
Cynical. Yeah, maybe a little. They're all about the law, obviously. But for them, Little Rock shows that laws, they're not enough on their own.
You need action, right? Sometimes
not.
even force.
Yep. Brown v. Board was on the books, but it took the 101st Airborne to make it real, to actually integrate that school.
So for them, Eisenhower wasn't just upholding the law, he was forcing social change to happen.
Exactly. And then you've got social historians. They're the ones who zoom in on the people.
Yeah.
The Little Rock Nine, but also everyday folks, activists.
Yeah.
That ground level view.
Reminds us that history isn't just these big abstract forces, it's about real people's lives.
Their struggles, their courage. And speaking at how things are perceived, we got to talk about the media.
Oh, yeah. Huge part of this. Little Rock, that was when TV really brought segregation home for a lot of Americans.
Those images, right? Angry mobs, soldiers escorting those kids, powerful stuff, changed public opinion for some.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Back then it was TV, now it's social media. Both can inform, but they can also
Distort things. Absolutely. It's a lot to sift through, even today. So it's a good question for all of us listening, right? How do we stay informed, but also stay critical?
Yeah.
How do we know what's true, especially with issues like civil rights where feelings run so high?
Yeah, it's on us to be careful to do our own research, not just believe everything we see or read.
Little Rock shows us why that's so important. We can learn from the past, but we also have to learn how to interpret it, I guess. Figure out what it means for us now.
And it's not over, is it? That fight for equality, it's still going on. Little Rock's just one chapter in a much longer story.
Exactly. And even with all the progress, the struggles the Little Rock Nine faced, they're still relevant today. We'll talk more about that after the break.
So much to think about. We've talked history, the personal stories, all the different ways historians look at this. But what does Little Rock mean for us, today? What can we actually learn from all this?
It's the big question, right? I mean, I think one thing it shows is change takes time. It's not like flipping a switch. It takes work and a willingness to, be uncomfortable sometimes.
Like those 9 students, every day facing those crowds that hate. It wasn't just one brave moment. It was like constant bravery.
Yeah.
For months.
Exactly. And that's, I think, a big lesson. Real progress, it's not always a straight line. There's setbacks, you get discouraged.
Yeah.
And that's true whether it's a social movement or even just trying to change something in your own life.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And sometimes it takes someone to step in and actually enforce what's right. Like Little Rock shows, sometimes just having a law on the books, it's not enough.
Yeah, it's that whole debate, isn't it? States' rights versus federal power. But Eisenhower, by not getting involved at first, it kind of gave those segregationists like Faubus the idea that they could get away with it.
That's a powerful point. Even being neutral, sometimes it's seen as siding with, the side that wants things to stay the same.
Right. And, we talked about media before. Back then, it was TV that really brought those images to everyone. But today, it's social media. It can be good for awareness, but it's also, there's a lot of
misinformation.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful what we believe.
Yeah.
So it's that same question again, right? How do we stay informed, but also think critically, especially with something as important as civil rights, where it's easy to get caught up in the emotions.
Got to check those sources, not just, believe the first thing you see.
Little Rock shows us why that's so crucial. We learn from history, but we also got to learn how to interpret it, apply it to what's going on now.
And honestly, the fight's not over. The things the Little Rock Nine went through, they're still relevant. It's not just some closed chapter in a textbook.
Absolutely. And just like they drew strength from the people who came before them, the whole civil rights movement, we can learn from their courage, their persistence. They believed things could get better and they fought for it.
Inspiring stuff. So I hope everyone listening, you take away from this, not just the facts of what happened, but that It matters today. It's about courage, about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. It's a long road to a more just world, but we can all be part of making that happen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Mr. Hutchings History. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.